Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the third episode of the sixth season of Fear the Walking Dead. I hope you've watched my reviews of the last two episodes, because I've been really enjoying both the episodes and doing these reviews of these episodes, because there's so much to talk about these episodes, and it's so satisfying to be able to share my enjoyment with you guys. Still, I've thought about doing reactions, but considering that a lot of the reactors to The Walking Dead are struggling with copyright and stuff, and did try to record a reaction for season 10 of The Walking Dead, and it got constantly blocked. I just think it's way too hard for me to do so. So if you ever were wondering about why I haven't done reactions to it, this is why. But anyway, I think my videos sharing my thoughts and recapping the episode is pretty much as good as a reaction, because I very much explain how I felt during each scene and everything. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about this episode, and I feel like out of the three episodes so far, this episode shows the most how much has changed this season. Why it has changed, I don't know, but you can definitely see how much the writing has improved in this episode, because there's so much about the dialogue that certain characters talk about, like the things they talk about that just was never going to happen in the last two seasons, and it hasn't even ever happened in The Walking Dead. What I'm talking about is the self-awareness. In this episode, like if you've watched it, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it, because it was an amazing episode. But what I'm talking about is the lines from Morgan, Al, and Dwight, like especially from Morgan and Al. Like the two lines that I'm talking about are in the beginning of the episode. We open up with Morgan studying about the baby of Rachel, which we saw in the first episode. She's the wife of Isaac, the guy who helped Morgan. And during that scene, Morgan behaves in a way that he has never behaved before. Like the last time he behaved like a normal human being, I would say, was probably in the first episode of the main show, when we first met him, when he met Rick. Because it was the last time he was like a happy, normal person. And in this episode, he behaves like he references his wife, Jenny, he references his kid, and he doesn't just... And in doing so, he doesn't end up moping around because of that. Well, he kind of does, but not because of them. Like, the fact that he's able to talk about his family again is just so refreshing, because a lot of the time, just like, it's like after a character dies, the rest of the characters are alive in the show just forget about them and don't really reference them. Like, think about how shocking it was when Rick referenced Shane in season 7 when talking about the fact that Judith is probably not his kid, or the fact that we even had Shane in season 9 when we had all the dream sequences with Rick. Like, these kind of references are so satisfying and don't really even happen that much, but the big point about this is the fact that Morgan is able to talk about his family who is dead without going insane, That really surprised me when I saw... in the trailer they didn't say that, but it's so surprising that he's just able to talk about him like that, and I love that he is. But in the trailer, the line that he says that surprised me the most, and I think a lot of people as well, is the fact that he says, "I feel like I've been 16 different people since it all ended." And the fact that the writers were aware, like, this should just shows that the writers are now self-aware, because Morgan has been like 16 different people since it all ended, because he has changed so much. In the first episode, when he meets Rick, he is one person. When he meets him in season 3, he's a different person. When he meets him when he meets with the Cheesemaker character, who I don't know the name of, who we see in the flashback episode in season 6, he's also a little bit of a different character, and becomes a different character, and becomes the kind of character he is during season 6 of the main show. Then when he is forced to kill a person to save Carol in the season 6, I think, finale, then he changes to a different person for most of season 7, the one who is on the brink of going insane. Then in All Out War, he's crazy again. Then when he leaves the main show and goes to Fear, he is different again. And then he maybe changes a little bit over the course of season 5 again, and he's a different person again. And after defeating Virginia, he is worried that he's gonna change again and his friends will not recognize him. But Rachel, rightfully so, tells to him that even if you are different, people will know that it's you. Like, there's nothing wrong with changing. And I love that she said that, but the fact that he references that fact, I just love that. It shows that the writers actually know what they're doing, honestly, because they are aware of all the things that Morgan has went through and are not just writing whatever they want. They consider all the context and everything. Like, it shows that they know, that they care. And I really love the moment in which he actually combines his stick and the axe into a longer battle axe. It just kind of, I feel like maybe this is a symbolism about him combining his crazy murderous side with his more sane and rational side to create the new Morgan, who is neither of these extremes. Like, that's really cool. Like, what the hell has happened with the writing that they actually have symbolism, references, and self-awareness this season? I honestly don't understand, but I fucking love it. So yeah, that's pretty much all we see of Morgan this episode. I honestly kind of like them sprinkling him a little bit in each episode, kind of bringing all the episodes together, because otherwise so far it's been kind of like very much bottle episodes or anthology series as the showrunners said this season was going to be. But just sprinkling Morgan in each episode has surprisingly managed to make it feel coherent, you know? So yeah, the rest of the episode is basically focused on Dwight and Althea. A surprisingly entertaining duo, I gotta say, because seeing the promos and everything beforehand and knowing that they are going to be the ones in this episode, I was really like, why? Why would you put these two characters together? I never thought that they were best buddies or that they fit personality-wise or whatever. But granted, I didn't really watch most of season 5 and especially the second half, so I didn't even know what happened during that. But they actually surprisingly have a lot of chemistry. They're fun together, and I think maybe they've changed Dwight's character a little bit, because in this episode he actually has fun, he's joking around, he's not complete serious or mopey, suicidal asshole as he was in season 5, honestly. So that was actually pretty cool to see. I feel like this is another thing that I feel like The Walking Dead hasn't done in a long time. Have the characters actually have fun for once. Like, they maybe had a little bit in season 9, but in season 10 they haven't really had the characters joke around or have fun or be happy. Because if all the time the characters are just moping around and crying and desperate and in war with somebody else, it just gets old. But when you have the characters joke around and have fun and be happy for a while, it just hits so much harder when shit goes down, you know? So yeah, again, it's refreshing that they were actually happy and joking around. And I gotta say, just it came up to me, Virginia doesn't really seem like that much of a bad person. Like, from the things that I've seen from her, sure, she's very strict and she doesn't take shit from people, but it doesn't really feel like how it felt with Negan during season 7. Like, he was a genocidal maniac who would kill people who fought back. But that's not what Virginia does. I mean, she essentially gets them killed by using them to clear the walkers in that place that we saw in episode 2. But she doesn't really seem to be that much of a bad person. Like, she's trying to build up communities and is not arbitrarily murdering people. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess outside of Morgan, so we'll see where that's gonna go. It's just, my point is, she doesn't seem to be as bad of a person. She just seems to be kind of like gray, not necessarily bad, but not necessarily good. And considering that this season of Fear seems to take a lot of cues from season 3. Like, we've had Strand go on the great path again, and maybe Morgan as well. I think that we might end up rooting for Virginia, and she might be joining the group or combining with the group properly now, and we might be on the side of the pioneers by the end of this season. But I don't know. We'll see where that's gonna go. That's my theory right now, especially because we have these submarine guys who I think are supposed to be the bad guys of this season. I think the showrunners have even said so, and even if they didn't, it's pretty obvious. So there's that. But yeah, we have Al and Dwight fucking around and supposedly, as I understood, scouting places to see whether there are any supplies or if there are people there. How the hell have they died? That's the job that Virginia has given them, which is a good enough excuse for me to look at cool locations and everything. Something that I have said in a lot of my reviews to World Beyond that I really enjoy. I love the locations that The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead comes up with. I love that. And I think they were looking at a funeral home, and while Otio was listening to the radio trying to find out more about the CRM, because this episode references the CRM, and Isabel, who is part of the CRM, and we saw her in the last season, which I didn't really watch, so I don't even really know how much of a relationship Al and Isabel may manage to have to build, but I know that she is in love with Isabel, that they like each other or whatever, and that Isabel has said to Al that they're probably never gonna see each other, but they hear each other in this episode. So while Al was trying to listen on the radio to see where Isabel is going to be, a really fucking creepy walker sneaks up on her, and at first I wasn't even sure that whether she was a walker or not, because that walker was in the trailer for the episode. And I actually thought that was a person, genuinely. Somebody was attacking her or something, because the walker doesn't look dead. Like, it's so weird. And I do hope this season has more in store with this concept, because that would be so cool, because I really liked it. But apparently this walker was embalmed. So it wasn't going to decompose, but it was still a walker. And that is such a cool concept. And if Fear doesn't manage to use it more this season, which I think they foreshadowed, which I'm gonna mention in a second, it's gonna be such a wasted opportunity, because that was so creepy, and everybody seems to think so as well. Like, I've seen people on Reddit, professional reviewers on Forbes have also called out the walker for being super fucking creepy, because they look like an alive person, but they behave like a walker, and that is such a it's kind of similar to the Whisperers actually, but it's kind of the opposite, because with the Whisperers it's alive people acting like walkers and then suddenly not like acting like walkers, which kind of causes an uncanny valley reaction, while in this case it's a walker behaving like a walker but not looking like a walker. So it's kind of reverse Whisperer like, and I love that. So I really hope they exploit this concept more, because it's such a cool idea. And even if they don't, I'm definitely using this in my zombie story, Dead Inside, which I write on Wattpad, although I don't really write as much since I started my YouTube channel last year. I just don't have the time. I don't know. I want to, but I don't have the time. But I don't think it's really gonna work as well in written written medium, because it's more about how it looks. Like, it's the same reason why I think the Whisperers, at least the concept of the Whisperer, works better in live action, because over the years we kind of build the idea that walkers behave a certain way and look a certain way, so whenever they don't, it strikes an uncanny valley reaction that is really cool. Like, remember that scene in which we had the first Whisperer kill Jesus? In that scene, like, everybody was shocked how the walker dodged, And that is what I'm talking about. That was kind of the reaction I had with this as well. And by the way, the foreshadowing that I was talking about, that I think they might be foreshadowing for future episodes. In one of the trailers for future episodes, in which I think we're gonna feature the truck lady and June, they are seemingly fighting some old guy or maybe zombies, I don't know. And they are doing it on some kind of like how to call it, hospital table, like the one in this cemetery home. I don't know, forgot the word for it. So I think that we might be having some kind of like a one episode embalming villain. I would really hope so, because in that episode I think we're gonna have the truck lady and June be attacked by that person, and he will want to kill them and embalm them. And it's gonna be interesting if he has done that to me, if that is going to be the case, and if that villain would have done that to many other walkers as well. I really hope that's what they're going for, because otherwise I don't really am excited for their episode. Like, I'm only excited for their episode because of the possibility of this happening. But who knows, maybe that episode is going to be good as well, because I didn't necessarily expect to enjoy an Al and Dwight focused episode, but their relationship and banter with each other was actually surprisingly entertaining. And by the way, I was honestly a little annoyed that this was an Althea focused episode, not a Dwight focused episode, and that Althea was the one featured in the opening screen, because I was hoping for more of a Dwight focused episode, because I was just more interested into Dwight as a character, because I like him from the main show and he's been always interesting to me. But still, I think he did plenty of stuff in this episode that I don't really mind. And it's not like this episode was all about Althea. It was kind of like, it used both of the characters to parallel their stories, kind of, because, and as we see in the following scene after the killing of the embalmed walker, Dwight and Althea sit around and drink beer, and they talk about their lost love, aka Isabel for Althea and Sherry for Dwight, and how they're probably never gonna see each other. And there's another scene in that moment where I love that the writers are referencing stuff. And do not tell me that this is not a reference, because there's no way this is not a reference to the main show. Because Dwight literally says, because Althea says that there's no way, even if she could meet Isabel, that she could go with her, because then Virginia would kill their friends. But then Dwight says that not if she thinks that Al is dead. And Al questions how would Virginia think that she is dead, and Dwight says that they could use a walker, mess up its face, and tell Virginia that that's Al. And if you remember from the main show, Season 6, I think it's episode 13, that's exactly what Rick and Co. does when one of the outposts of Negan asks for Gregory's head, and obviously because they cannot kill Gregory at that point, because he's the leader of the hilltop at that point, they get a bunch of walkers, cut off their heads, and make their face look like Gregory's head. And you cannot tell me that's not a reference to that. Obviously Dwight doesn't know that that happened, or I think he probably doesn't. But the writers definitely did when they said that line, because it's impossible that it's not a reference. And honestly, I love it. I love the fact that it's a reference. These 3 episodes so far have had so many references. I said so in my video for the first episode, how many references and parallels there were. And for the second episode, I think there were a couple as well. And in this one as well, like, I'm loving that they're acknowledging the rest of the universe, the Walking Dead universe, and the previous seasons of Fear as well. I love that. So yeah, afterwards, Dwight convinces Althea that she should go and find Isabel because she has only one life, and yada yada yada. And then they go to a skyscraper. I don't know if it's a skyscraper, it's some kind of tall building. And by the way, I forgot to mention, during this episode, Dwight and Althea are playing a little game where they collect IDs. Some people have rightfully questioned why would people, walkers have IDs on them, but something that I don't think people realize is that those are most likely walkers dead for a long time. Like, we don't know how long they have been dead. If they died on the day, like early on, they probably still had their IDs on them. And another refutal to this is that in, I think, season 2 of the Telltale's game, somebody questions the same thing because there are a couple of walkers with IDs, and one of the characters says is that some people just cannot give up of the old world. So that's another excuse. Like, some people just want some kind of memory of how the world used to be or whatever. It's a flimsy excuse, but it's an excuse that I'm willing to go for. Plus, it was a cool way to kind of maybe reference the main show, because in the main show there's Aaron who collects the plates of the cars, like the number plates. And that has actually spawned a bunch of theories that Al and Aaron are a brother and sister, which, I mean, I don't know if either of the characters has said that their family is dead or whether they have a brother or a sister respectively, but I don't really care either way. I don't really think that relationship would work for me, because for the longest time we haven't known about Aaron's sister being a thing. So creating a sister out of nowhere, or making it so Al is a sister of Aaron, just, it feels a little forced. And it doesn't do much for me, because for me to care, there has to have been a relationship beforehand that we saw, because otherwise I don't really care. Especially because they will probably never interact, because they are in 2 different shows. But yeah, I guess let's continue. So Dwight and Althea get into the building, and let me think of how exactly the time of events goes. So they get into the building and they notice writing on the wall that is the exact same as what the submarine guys wrote on the submarine, aka "the end is the beginning." And this is my favorite line of this episode, which Althea says when they see that. She says, "The world goes to shit, everybody's a philosopher." And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the biggest proof that there has been a tremendous change behind the scenes of this season. I don't know if it's Gimple being more focused on the TV, on the World Beyond series, and maybe the movies, the Rick movies, or I don't know, some kind of other change, but there's definitely been a change behind the scenes, because the previous writer wouldn't have been self-aware enough to say something like this, because Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 and 5 were way too pretentious. World Beyond is currently way too philosophical and pretentious. Season 7, 8, 6, and debatably 6 and 5 of the main show were super pretentious, and even a little bit of Season 4, which you notice once you go and rewatch how much, of the pretentious dialogue that we had in Season 6, 7, and 8 is also present in Season 4 and 5. And the only connective tissue between all these pretentious seasons is the fact that Gimple had close. He was the one in control of the main show. He was closely connected with Fear for the last 2 seasons, and he's also a co-creator for World Beyond. So you cannot tell me that this is not Gimple's fault. Like, even people have decided to call it Gimple speak at this point. So the fact that they literally deliberately called out Gimple speak in this episode just speaks to me that something has changed behind the scenes, and the most likely thing is just that Gimple is not really involved with Fear anymore as much because of World Beyond, most likely. I don't know why at this point AMC just doesn't fire his ass, because he single-handedly ruined the whole thing. Sure, have him for occasional episodes, I don't mind that, because he actually writes some decent episodes. He has written some of the best episodes of the main show, but he's not a good showrunner, and he should not have an overseeing role in which he is the one who controls everything. That's the worst thing. At least this kind of role that they've given him is more of like a kicked upstairs situation where he was promoted but he has less control over stuff, kind of. He just has to make sure that everything doesn't contradict each other. So yeah, this is my favorite line of this episode. So even if the rest of the episode was shit, just for this line, I love this episode. But yeah, they get into the building, and this part here reminded me a little bit of 28 Days Later, because there's not necessarily similar scene, but similar concept of two people getting into a building, meeting zombies, and then finding more people in that building. It's just, it ends up being different because of the different universes and the different ways that zombies work in these universes. But then Althea and Dwight meet a group of people who have been living in this building since the beginning of the apocalypse, which at this point, timeline-wise, is about 3 years. And a lot of these people look like they haven't even changed their clothes in those 3 years. So yeah, I think this is pretty much the weak point of this episode, because this doesn't make any fucking sense. And the only way I can explain it and justify it is in a very, very flimsy theory that I don't even think most people have thought about. Because if this was like a few months into the zombie apocalypse, I can believe that these people have never left the building. But it's been 3 years. And again, there's also the fact that the main character from that group, which is Nora, I think it's her name, looks like she's still in her work clothes 3 years in. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And they don't even look like it's a clean place of a community or whatever. It just looks like an abandoned building that these people ended up staying for maybe a few weeks or a month or so, I don't know. But not a place that they've been living since the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. That doesn't make any sense. The only way that I can explain that is the CRM. Because later on, when Dwight and Al get to the roof, or should I say only Al, because Dwight ends up doing other stuff, she finds a crate which was left by the CRM helicopter, and most likely Isabel. And the only way that both that and the people in the building being there for 3 years makes sense is that this was kind of like a community, like what Jadis was on the main show, and that the CRM, for one reason or another, was supplying them with medicine, food, and everything. And only during the last delivery, shit went down, and they were maybe not going to do anything about it. And maybe they were the ones who let out the rats who poisoned everybody with the Black Plague. Because yeah, that's also a part of this episode, which is a cool addition and another reference to the main show, because we had a sickness in season 4, I think it was, of the main show, but that's not as much of a reference, just a concept that is just applied again. So yeah, the only way that it makes sense that these people have been in the building for 3 years is the same reason why living in the junkyard for the trash people on the main show makes sense, because they are being supplied by the CRM. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And I hope that is the case, because otherwise it's just screwing with the timeline, because it's supposed to be 3 years. They have not been, there's no way they survived there for 3 years. But yeah, we find out that these people have the plague, which was spread by rats, and I think we are led to believe that it's the submarine people, because they specifically say that it's most likely not Virginia because it's outside of her territory. And they don't even mention the possibility of the CRM doing it, and why would the CRM do it, and why would they want to land on the roof later on and I'll have to tell them that there is a plague in the building and that they should probably stay away from it, and they do. So I think it's most likely genuinely the submarine people, but again, why did they do that? I don't know. So yeah, after finding out that these people have the Black Plague, Al and Dwight still leave them because they can't do shit about them. Because if they call Virginia, Virginia's probably gonna kill them, and they don't have any antibiotics that could help them. So they continue going to the roof. And as they are going up, they get kind of swarmed by walkers and get stuck in a bathroom. And one thing they find out is that Dwight also has the plague. But the interesting thing about this is the fact that they say that there's no way that Dwight has caught the plague now, because it takes like a day or two for the symptoms to show up, and he already has blisters on his neck. So they say that he most likely got the plague a few days before, when he had a rat in his sleeping bag. So that kind of shows that this plague thing is much more widespread than just this building. And one thing I just want to say is I think they might be planning to use this as a bigger concept for this season, have more walkers with the plague in future episodes. Maybe we'll see where that's gonna go. But this reminds me a lot of what they tried to do in season 5 with the radioactive zombies, but they failed miserably because the execution wasn't serious enough. We didn't see anybody die of radiation or poisoning, so there was no stakes. They just didn't take it seriously enough. The rest of the stuff in the season wasn't taken seriously enough for me to really feel the dread of the possibility of the walkers being radioactive or whatever. So I feel like they might be doing the same thing this season, but better. And it kind of makes me wish that they actually executed the radioactive walkers better last season, because that is one of the saving graces of season 5, because I really like that idea. But they didn't really do much with it. I don't know. So yeah, we find out that Dwight is infected with the plague, and at the same time, Nora saves them from the bathroom because there was a bunch of walkers knocking on the door. So she kills them and they get out of there. And Al decides to continue to the roof. In the meantime, Dwight goes with Nora to search for antibiotics somewhere. Why do you think they would find anything 3 years into the zombie apocalypse? I don't know, but bear with me. So Althea goes to the roof. She ends up talking to Isabel for a little bit, tells them that there's a plague in the building and that they should stay away, and decides that she won't go with Isabel because, as she says, she lost people before and she only has video recordings of them. She doesn't want that to happen again. Basically, she has kind of grown an attachment to Dwight, I guess, maybe as a brother or something, because I guess they kind of made it feel like that with the relationship that they had, because they say that Althea says that she used to do the plate thing of collecting plates with her brother, which is another thing that has fueled theories that Aaron is her brother. And now she's doing the collecting of IDs with Dwight. So maybe she has a brother-sister relationship with him, which is pretty cool. I like that. And she doesn't want to leave him again. And at the same time, Isabel tells her that there's beer in that crate. Why? I don't know. But then she also finds medicine in that crate. Coincidentally, exactly the type that is going to help the people in the building who are sick with the plague. So then they decide that they're going to take those people somewhere else, because taking them to Virginia is a dumb idea, because she is an evil person and she's supposed to be the antagonist. Where they are going to take them though, I have no idea, because as far as we know, Morgan hasn't talked to Dwight and Althea, so they don't know that Morgan's alive and that Morgan has a place for them to stay. So yeah, I don't know, maybe we'll see in the next few episodes, but so far it's not really explained. And then at the end of the episodes, as they are leaving the building, they hear someone on the radio who called out to the person who was on the roof, because while Althea was on the roof, she shot a flare to signal to the helicopter that there's somebody there and talk to them through the radio. And that person on the radio thought that the person on the roof needed help. And funnily enough, Dwight recognizes that voice. Who could it possibly be? And then honestly, we have the most sweetest reunion scene we've had in the Walking Dead universe since, I don't know, the reunion between Daryl and Carol in season 7 maybe. or maybe even the season 10 reunion of them in the, I think in the first episode. Like it was such a sweet reunion between Dwight and Sherry. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite reunions. Like I didn't expect to tear up, but I actually teared up. Like it hit me that hard. I think the actress for Sherry, I think her name is Kristen or something. She really saw that scene, like the one teardrop on the one side of her face. It really hit me, and yeah, it was a really freaking happy, sad scene, like sappy. I love that scene. It's my favorite scene of the episode after the world goes to shit. Everybody's a philosopher scene. And yeah, that's basically how the episode ended. And it was honestly a solid episode. I would say it was better than the last one. Still not as good as the premiere, because the fact that the premiere feels like a mini Morgan movie just makes it so much better. But this one is very close, I would say, and it's definitely better than the previous episode. The previous episode, if you didn't watch my video, as I said in it, felt very much like an old Fear episode, and in terms of quality it was even like that. But this episode honestly felt like The Walking Dead, maybe a little bit, I don't know, but I really enjoyed it. It was a really good episode. I love all the references, self-awareness, and parallels that we have in this episode with Dwight and Althea and their relationships with people, and thinking that they are never gonna find the people they love again. But yeah, it was a really cool episode. Now, I really love the fact that it feels like there's actual thought put behind the episodes and the writing this season. It feels like they're actually trying, even though it might not be as satisfying or landing all the time with everything, although so far we haven't really had a moment where it doesn't really land. So far everything has worked for me largely. It just feels like they're actually trying. There's actual thought and effort put behind the scenes, and I love that. And also this episode was directed by Coleman Domingo, who plays Strand. And honestly, there wasn't a moment where I was really like, oh, a cool shot, like the previous episode, which was directed by Lenny James, who plays Morgan. But it was fine. Like I enjoyed the directing, I guess. Like for the most part, it was fine. Like there was also not a moment in it which I was like, oh, it's dumb, it looks dumb. Maybe a little bit for the first-person GoPro vision, which was cool enough. Like if the whole episode was like that, I would have been super annoyed, because it wouldn't have been a good execution of the found footage stuff. And they already kind of did that in the previous season, so yeah, I don't know. But I'm glad that it was only for a moment. As a gimmick for a little bit, it worked for me decently well, like I liked it. But it just made it feel a little cheap and made up, like, I don't know. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode a lot. I love that they're continuing with the quality of writing, and the fact that they've made Althea kind of interesting to me, and I kind of give a shit about her now. I'm curious what they're gonna do with the other characters, and I'm definitely excited for the next episode, which is gonna feature John Dory, who I'd say out of the new cast is probably the most interesting character. But yeah, we'll see. I'm already excited about it because we in the trailer we can see John Dory and Strand fighting, or at least John Dory punching Strand. So I can't wait to see the concept about this. And honestly, talking about the trailer, there's so much from the trailers that we still haven't seen, and it's supposedly gonna happen in the next like 4 or 5 episodes. We still haven't seen the masked people with white masks, who we are kind of led to believe that it's gonna be our people, because in one future scene it looks like it. So we'll see how that's gonna go. And I just realized that they blatantly showed Sherry in the trailers and nobody realized. Or at least I think that's Sherry. I feel like Sherry looks very similar to Charlie, I feel like. And in that one scene of the trailer right before or around where we see the white masked people, there's one scene of a female walking and crying, and I thought that was Charlie. Maybe I'm the only one who thought that was Charlie, but I think that's actually Sherry now that I think about it, because it feels like it looks more like Sherry, and considering that in another scene we see Dwight getting scared by these white masks, people with white masks. I genuinely believe that was Sherry, and nobody noticed that. Or or at least I think nobody noticed that. Maybe I'm just the only idiot who didn't. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I think I'm gonna give it an 8.6 to a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really solid episode, and it's definitely better than the last one. Yeah, I'm so happy that Fear is so good. I'm genuinely more excited about Fear's episodes than I was for The Walking Dead season 10, because when I started watching season 10, it instantly already felt like a step back. I can't really explain what I mean by that, but like it felt like the tone from season 10 was still going, but it felt like some of the more like the pacing felt like it was going way too slow again compared to the very fast pace of season 9. And then over the course of the season we had some return of pretentious dialogue here and there, and it just didn't work for me as well as season 9. I don't really want to talk too much about it because I want to do it in a video on its own, but yeah, that's how I feel about it. I guess I'm also more enjoying season 6 of Fear, not only because the last two seasons were complete shit, but also because Fear is not bound by a source material. Like with The Walking Dead, even if you haven't read the comic books, you probably have a faint idea of some things that might be happening. And the fact that I just know that the Commonwealth is going to be a thing, or that the Whisperers were going to be a thing, and know where the story is going to go, kind of makes me less excited because I already know where it's going to go, and the only thing that I can enjoy is how it's gonna get there. While with Fear, I have no idea where it's going to go. For all I know, they might nuke the world by the end of this season. So yeah, I can't wait to check out the next episode, which is gonna release in about 3 days from the date of recording of this video. But yeah, I'm really excited for it. Damn, like you can notice, you can even see how much I'm enjoying this season and episodes, because I'm talking for like 40 minutes for each of these episodes, compared to World Beyond where maybe I get to 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Like the fact that these videos are so long just proves how good these episodes are in general. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you end up enjoying my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge your support and help keep the channel going. It helps support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. And if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out by liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with someone who you think might enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!